Happy Halloween, everybody. And so yes, it's October, that means Halloween and scary movies. And we've been getting quite a few scary movie remakes from Friday the 13th about 9 years ago, which actually is getting another reboot next year from what I've read. And this year it's Halloween. So we've had a lot of these from The Thing, Halloween, and Nightmare on Elm Street came out in 2010. Been quite a few, but I want to take this opportunity to, instead of saying, oh, don't remake this movie, don't remake that movie, or make a sequel like they did with Leprechaun or the Child's Play movies, which I didn't like. I want to talk about movies I think do deserve to be remade. So this is going to be my top 10 horror, scary movie remakes I want. So let's get into this. Number 10 is Urban Legend. This came out, I believe, in 2000. Not too sure. Yeah, late 90s, early 2000s, somewhere around there. And it's about a killer that kills people based on urban legends. We've all heard some of these, or we've heard that, oh, I know someone who knew someone who knows someone. And I think this sort of thing can be redone now because urban legends really don't change too much over time. You just keep and stay the same basically. So I think you could redo it and maybe make the killer in it a little bit better and make the backstory a little bit better, because especially with the sequels, they were not that good. Even the first one was so-so and really rode the Scream bandwagon of being very meta in the way it handles things. And yeah, I think it could be redone and maybe made better. Number 9 is The Faculty. Now, this one's interesting for me because I remember watching this one and enjoying it quite a bit. It's an alien invasion movie, and a lot of kids, a lot of us, when we were kids, we thought like our teachers were from another planet or something like that. But in this case, it's kind of true. There's like an alien parasite that possesses people, and they start with the teachers and then move on to the student body, and a group of students are trying to prevent this alien invasion that's happening. And I think that sort of thing could work now as well as back then, and I would really like to see it done with better effects than it had back then. Maybe also use some of the practical effects along with CG, because this was made again like late 90s, so CG wasn't all that, it doesn't really hold up. But I think now it could be remade with better CG technology, especially with the monsters and the way that the possessor aliens, if you want to call them, the way they look. Or you can kind of keep it similar looking, and in the way that the original was kind of an homage to, 60s and 50s B-movie so I think it could work in that sense. I would like to see a remake of it because I enjoyed it, and I think another generation would kind of like to see the idea of their teachers actually being aliens kind of expanded upon. So yeah, I could see that. Number 8 is Valentine. Yeah, I've talked about this once before, and this came out in 2000, and I think one of the biggest problems with this movie was that it was so rushed to be made. And so you can tell by the way the stories are structured, and that there's really no big character development. Some of the things that happen, they're just completely wiped away. Characters that we think could affect the story, they don't. It needs to be redone. This story is about a kid that is basically a nerd, and he goes to a dance, and he asks a bunch of girls to go out with him, to dance with him. Virtually all of them say no in very harsh ways, and then they humiliate him in front of the entire school by one of them falsely claiming that he attacked her. And so many years later, after he's basically been destroyed by this event, he comes seeking revenge. And I think it could work just as well now. I know with the whole Me Too thing going on, people will say, oh, you can't do that because blah, 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 blah. I'm not going to get into it. But I think having it work now would be a little bit easier because of the way that we are as technology with, you know, Twitter, Instagram, that sort of stuff. You can have maybe the killer using Instagram and that sort of stuff to lure his victims so he can kill them. And I did like the mask of the killer and the way that when he was a kid he had a big nosebleed while they're beating the crap out of him, and then every time he's about to kill somebody he gets a nosebleed. And I like that, and I think they should keep that. This movie needs a remake because you really can expand upon the idea and make it better. I mean, there's basically nowhere to go but up with this idea. So, yeah, I would like to see that. Number 7 is Gremlins. Yeah, scary movie, kind of, but not really. But it's a cool movie that's not really that scary, except for a couple of scenes. And we all know Gremlins. Those of us who grew up in the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s, a teenage boy is given a mogwai by his eccentric dad as a Christmas present, and it comes with some rules. We all know the rules if you watched it, but something happens that the rules keep getting broken, and the gremlins are loosed upon the town. I would like to have it set back in a small town, but at the same time, part of me really wants to go into maybe a medium-sized town so we can see some of the destruction that these gremlins can do on a massive scale, especially with the way our technology is, with everything being connected to computers and stuff like that, our power grids, the traffic lights, all that sort of stuff. I think you could really do some interesting stuff if you allow it to not, it doesn't have to be like New York, like the second one was, which was only in one building, but I think a medium-sized town instead of small town would really benefit from having it being destroyed in a sense by this sort of creature. And I would like to have it set around Christmas time as well, like the original was. So yeah. So I would like to see that. Hopefully we get it someday. Who knows? So number 6 is Creepshow. This is an interesting one because it's an anthology. We really haven't had too many anthology movies recently, except for like Trick or Treat, and I guess you want to call VHS, but I haven't watched those movies because they're found footage movies, and I don't want to get motion sick trying to watch a movie, as I've said before. And so I would like to see this because some of the stuff that's done in these stories, they're really isolated stories that are just part of a comic book in a sense, and I like the way that just like Trick or Treat, the transitions are done very comic book like. Also, I would like to see what they did in the original one, which is take something known as pretty serious like Stephen King and make him ridiculous. I think there's definitely some serious actors out there could go for having a more fun role and just let them have a laugh or two. And then in the original there's also a scene, a story where Leslie Nielsen is very menacing and he's a villain. And this was after Airplane came out. It was like 84, I think. I'm not too sure. I've only watched it like once. But he is very intimidating in this one. He used to be a serious actor. Then he did Airplane, and then he was just a comedic actor from then on out. But in this movie, he is completely serious, and he is intimidating and kind of scary, especially when you consider what he is known for. And so I would like to see maybe a Chris Pratt or maybe a Paul Rudd. I'm not really a fan of Paul Rudd, but somebody who's known as a comedic actor getting a chance to do something very serious and very intimidating and menacing. I'd like to see that. But that's just part 1 of my list. Stay tuned for part 2, which will come out hopefully tomorrow. Hopefully. And so until then, what's your favorite remake of the scare? What's your favorite scary movie remake? So that's my question for this video. But stay tuned for part 2. Take care. Bye.